Okay, so yeah, you started your career in TV documentaries. So how have you been able to use this experience for the Nanny McPhee movie?
Well, everyone always says don't work with children and animals, and I think my background in documentaries came in very useful when I was making this, because when you're making a documentary you have to react to what happens. There's no script, and so I think it's made me very flexible as a filmmaker. So when, for example, Emma would write in the script that the pig runs from A to B, and then the pig ran from A to Z and did something completely different, I just had the cameras handheld and we went with what was happening. Or, for example, the pigs were meant to run away and they didn't. They wanted to be caught, so we had to think of new ways of working. And I think probably those skills of flexibility were quite important in making this film.
Yeah. So, and what's the difference between shooting with children and shooting with adult actors?
It's a very different process working with children than working with adults. With adults, you can discuss ideas much more. You can discuss intellectually what the idea of the scene is, what their emotional journey is. With children, you work much more in terms of an energy, that they have a lot of energy, children, and you have to harness it and use it. And I brought in a movement director for some of the scenes, the scene particularly where the children are hitting themselves, and he taught them puppeteering techniques and taught them how to use their bodies. So we found the way in for the children was often a physical way, rather than with an adult you'd use a much more intellectual way of working at a scene.
Okay. And what was your first thought when it was decided that you were directing the movie?
I was excited to be offered this movie, really, because I felt it had the potential to be a really epic classic film, that it takes you on a huge emotional journey, that it's not only funny but it makes you cry. And it's very rare to find a movie that appeals to the whole family. And what I love about this script is that you can take your parents to it, you take your children to it, you tell your friends to go and see it. And it's not a movie that talks down to children in any way.
Okay. And Maggie Gyllenhaal as Miss Green couldn't really cope with her situation, so you have two twins, as I heard, and may I ask you if you know a bit that feeling, maybe?
I very much could identify with one of the things that appealed to me about the script was the character of Maggie Gyllenhaal, that she really isn't coping at all well with trying to... She thinks she's coping, but in fact she's not coping with trying to run the farm, look after her children, have a job in the shop, missing her husband. And she needs help. And the big thing is she has to learn to accept that she needs help. And I think a lot of us are bad at accepting that. And I'm sure there was a part of me that was very like Mrs. Green when I was a young mother, that I didn't want to accept that anyone might know better than I did. Something I had to learn.
Yeah. Okay, and did you have a nanny yourself when you were a child, or do your twins have a nanny?
I was brought up totally by my mother. I never had a nanny. My children have had a combination of their father's very involved in looking after them, their grandparents, and aunts have been around a lot for them. But at the same time, that's been supported by various nannies, and they've been an important element in our lives. And I think they are for a lot of working women now. As more women go out and achieve in the workplace, we all need much more of a support system. We're all in need of a nanny. Maybe not Nanny McPhee, but nannies of different kinds.
Okay. And how much did you have a vision or a picture before before the shooting began?
I had a very strong visual sense of this film. It was one of the big things that attracted me to it. I wanted to open it out into big epic landscape in a tradition of films like The Railway Children, The Sound of Music, or, for example, Brokeback Mountain. I wanted to bring the British landscape to the cinema, and I felt this had the potential to be really epic and cinematic as a film. And also that the magic could go to a new place, that you could do a lot in CGI to make the pigs swim, to make the pigs fly. So it was very exciting to me visually as a world.
Okay. And in one sentence, what or which impressions do you take with you from this shooting?
From the experience of shooting or of the movie? Probably my biggest... It's a sense of being in the countryside waiting for the sun to come out, I think, because it was very important to me the film had a look of the height of summer, and we sat in fields in the rain waiting for a little bit of sun to come out. So it's my biggest memory of this movie is waiting for sun. And it's amazing to me when I sit in the cinema and watch it now, it feels like beautiful sunny days, but my impression of making it is of constant rain.
Okay. And would you like to do a third part of the Nanny McPhee movie?
Well, it's been fantastic making this film in lots of ways, but it is my first film for the cinema, and I think I don't want to be typecast as someone who only does family movies. So probably for me a good thing to do next is to do an adult piece of work. But I'm sure there'll be a third film, and it'll be very exciting.
Yeah. Okay. So what are your next projects?
I'm working on an action thriller, which I'm excited about. So it's quite different, but I like doing very different types of work.